Now, out of the blue, June 30th, people around the world were shocked to see Bill Cosby back on their TV screens. He threw up a defiant victory sign and said that he was the victim of a witch hunt. But wait, wasn't this the guy who lost his career after being convicted of 3 counts of SA? So you're telling me that the same dude whose more than 60 accusers have all stated that he did the same horrific things to them, and he's the victim now? When exactly did you lose your mind, Bill? But yet, on June 30th, 2021, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania overturned Cosby's conviction, finding that he shouldn't have been charged on a technicality. Now, information on this case is at best convoluted, and the media tries to combine and understand how could something like this even happen. But regardless of anything, the bottom line is that almost after 3 years in the slammer, Cosby's now a free man, and his PR team is busy showing how he was just rushing home to see his wife Camille and wants to eat at his favorite pizza spot. Now today we're going to be talking about the story of Bill Cosby. Sorry about that. Now, born in 1937 in Philly, the young chap William Cosby Jr. shined shoes and trying to make ends meet. And by his teenage years, he was in college working at a local bar. And at this bar, Bill would fill in for the club comedian, and this would lay the foundation for his entire career. Now, Bill really made himself unique from his peers. In a time where vulgar humor, one-liners, and gags were the norm, Bill came in with this relaxed, conversational style about stories of his childhood.
Junior high school that I went to, it was like the worst because the kids were definitely bad. Capital bad. We had guys that were so tough. I mean, they would either become killers or priests.
You know, Bill, he was the family-friendly comedian who stood out from the crowd. Now, in 1963, Bill went on a blind date with a teenager, Camille Hanks, at a bowling alley, and they both said, "I do," a year later. Bill was 26, and Camille, she was 19. Now, Camille followed her new husband to Los Angeles, where his career really took off. And although the success, money, and children all came rolling in, he would build this entertainment empire by playing this helpful, wholesome, friendly father figure in everything. Now, his stand-up career was what made Cosby pretty famous. He had stand-up albums that won over 6 Grammys, sold millions of vinyl, and around this time, Bill was on the road, and he was making about $30,000 a week at his stand-up shows in Vegas. That's like $200,000 today. Now, many of Cosby's accusers state that a lot of the incidents occurred during this time period in Vegas with Bill Cosby on the road. But from the outside, though, Cosby's career was just absolutely skyrocketing. You had Fat Albert, I Spy, he became the Jell-O spokesperson.
But Mom, it's a Jell-O pudding pop snack.
But it wasn't until The Cosby Show was launched in 1984, which became his biggest success and established him as really a household name. At its peak, Bill was making $4 million a month just in the syndication rights alone. Bill, he had become America's dad. Now, when the show was canceled in 1992, Mr. Cosby embarked on a number of projects, including the kids show Little Bill.
He's the same age as my friend Little Bill.
Kids Say the Darndest Things. And, how could I forget? Cosby's Mysteries. But he was never really able to emulate the success of the original Cosby Show. And for almost 2 years, Bill stepped back from Hollywood. You know, he's focusing on his rare African-American art collection, donating millions to universities, and becoming just really an old man. But by 2014, Cosby wanted to make a grand comeback. Netflix created a stand-up special for his 77th birthday that was set for next week. His rare art collection would be placed in the Smithsonian that month, and NBC was going to create a show to bring him back to the prime time. And he was hitting up the stand-up circuit once again. It was the long-awaited comeback that all of his fans had been dying to see.
Verbal spaces?
Order in the court, order in the court.
I'm scared of you.
Until. So comedian Hannibal Perez, you know, he's on stage, he's working the crowd, he does a little bit. And I'm not gonna say the bit, but here's the bit on screen. Now, at the very end of the whole bit, he told his entire audience to Google Bill Cosby. Now, looking back on it now, this bit that Hannibal did really is attributed to be the starting point of all these accusations that came forward, and a wave came his way. He had one by one different women stepping forward saying that they had been drugged and abused by Cosby. And because of this, NBC canceled that new pilot show. Netflix's 77th special, yeah, that was donezo. Late night talk show appearances were canceled. Bill was, he was getting canceled. But Cosby's lawyers vigorously denied and denied and denied.
For the first time, responding to questions about the barrage of sexual assault allegations.
Are you prepared for the backlash? If a young person comes up to you and says, you know, my mom says you've done some bad things, how will you answer them? If they are pressing you, are you guilty? Did you do it? Are the allegations true?
I'm not sure.
because Cosby had never faced criminal charges. So you would think if you're a Bill Cosby, maybe you would stop doing your stand-up circuit in the midst of all these allegations. But let's say you didn't stop. Maybe you shouldn't make jokes about the accusations against you. Apparently Cosby didn't really think that way. Now during a stand-up show after the cancellations of every other project he had and allegations from more than 15 different women, a woman who got up from one of the front rows during one of his stand-up sets walked past the stage and was asked by Cosby where she was going. And when she answered that she was going to go to the lobby to grab a drink, Cosby hits her back with, "You have to be careful about drinking around me." And the crowd just went with a big applause until one person stood up and heckled, "You're..." And that person was thrown out of the club. But this is a good metaphor for what people thought at the time. You know, with these accusations, there was a great division. Bill's defenders rattled off how this was done by the media for views and ratings.
Come after me like that, because I'm sick of this bull. Here's the bottom line for me, it's my opinion. And the American courts agree with me because still, he has not been taken to jail or tried or on anything. So back off me.
And that these women, they're just lying for a paycheck. And on the other side was people demanding that Cosby be held accountable. Now in the midst of all of this chaos, this part is... I can't believe this actually even happened. So Cosby's PR team is trying to steer the conversation towards the funny positive angle to make people forget about these women who are just liars. So the marketing team posted this up on Bill Cosby's Twitter account. "Go ahead and meme me." They launched an online meme generator of Bill Cosby. How did Bill Cosby think this would go? So instead of the friendly memes they were expecting, like, you know, this and this, they got stuff like this. I guess it really wasn't the reaction they were looking for. So understanding this next piece of the story is crucial in order to understand why Bill was in and released from prison. Now, Andrea Constant, a Toronto native, worked as the director of basketball at Temple University. Now, Bill, he was a big friend of the university. He had sat on the board of trustees for 30 years, donated millions of dollars, and was highly involved with the campus. Now, that fall, the Temple trustees wanted to show Cosby around where his money was going, and they showed him the renovated basketball facilities. And that's the day that he met Andrea. Now, they exchanged phone numbers, Bill and Andrea, and kept in contact about how these renovations were going, and through the months, Bill slowly became a mentor and a friend to Andrea. Now, a year later, in 2004, Andrea was talking about leaving Temple University. You know, she wanted to go back to her family in Canada. So she wanted some advice and went to Bill's house to talk over about it. So the minute she arrived, she noticed a glass of water and a glass of wine sitting on the table. Bill offers a drink, but Andrea refused. She hadn't eaten anything. But Bill is insisting that she take a drink. So Andrea takes a glass of wine, begins to drink it. So after about 20 minutes of talking, Andrea leaves and goes to the restroom, and by the time she comes back, Bill has his hand out, and he opens it up, and he offers Andrea 3 little blue pills.
He had 3 blue pills in his hand.
3 blue pills.
3 blue pills, and he put his hand out, and I said, "What are those?" And he said, "They'll help you relax." And I said, "Like, are they natural? Are they like a herbal remedy?" He said, "No, they're your friends. Just put them down.
They're your friends.
They're your friends. Just put them down."
And they continue to talk about her big move and this upcoming stress. But within 20 minutes, her vision gets blurry. Her mouth gets pretty dry. She starts slurring her speech. It's hard for her to even stand up. Now, Bill comes over, holds her up, and tells her she just needs to relax. And he walks her over to the couch and tells her just to lie down. And she opens her eyes and feels Bill sitting right behind her on the couch, massaging her. And then Bill takes her hand and uses it to... And in the middle of that situation, Andrea just loses consciousness and passes out. Now, the morning sun hits Andrea's face and it wakes her up. She looks down, her pants are unzipped. Her bra, it's on the floor. Something wasn't right. And while she's getting up to leave, Bill Cosby's standing right in the doorway in a robe and slippers, naked. And he says, "There's a muffin and tea on the table for you." She takes a sip and a bite and leaves the house. Now, after this incident, they continue to talk over the phone about athletics of the school and just mainly business stuff. And Cosby, 4 months later, invites her out to dinner at a restaurant. And during this meal, Andrea confronted Cosby about what had happened. What were those pills that he gave her? Why did he take advantage of her? But Cosby, he wasn't having any of it, and he just left the restaurant and left Andrea to just pay the bill. Now, keeping the incident to herself for a year, one night, Andrea bolts awake and is crying and calls her mother for advice. And Andrea told her mom what had finally happened. Now, her mother was enraged and called the police department in Canada, and they retained a legal counsel in the United States. And that night, an American police report was filed. Now, upon Andrea's interview with the police, they felt they had enough evidence to issue a press release on January 24th, 2005 that Bill Cosby was under investigation for sexual assault. Now, Cosby, with an army of of attorneys were all interviewed by investigators. And Bill claimed that on the night that was in question, Andrea came to his house complaining of an inability to sleep. Now, Bill recalled that once Andrea took the pills, they started kissing and touching and feeling each other up on the couch. But he insisted that she never resisted or told him to stop. Maybe because she's knocked out on Benadryl. Now, good guy Cosby, you see, he denied having any intimate relations with Andrea, ever. And after that interview, without being asked to do so, Cosby provided the police with those pills, and the laboratory results came back, and they were Benadryl. In February 2005, then District Attorney Castor reviewed Andrea's interviews and Cosby's interviews in order to assess the viability of any kind of prosecution against Cosby. But there were two things that the DA thought were strange. Number one, the fact that Andrea had failed to promptly file any kind of complaint against Cosby. And then number two, Andrea's behavior in the years since the alleged assault complicated things because, she had stayed in contact with Cosby. Now, with all of this into consideration, the DA concluded that there really wasn't enough admissible evidence to charge Cosby criminally and prove beyond a reasonable doubt that he was guilty of this. He did want to give Andrea a path, to justice. So he decided that a civil lawsuit for money damages was her best option. So the DA worked the deal. He would remove the threat of criminal prosecution for Cosby, but he would no longer be able to invoke his Fifth Amendment right in the civil lawsuit, which is the right to remain silent. So during the discovery of the civil lawsuit, Cosby sat through 4 depositions, testified that he had developed romantic feelings into Andrea as soon as he met her, and he acknowledged that every time they tried to meet up, it was always him initiating these meetings. He had also stated that he had engaged in consensual activity with Andrea on 3 different occasions, including the January 2004 incident. He said that they had laid together on the couch while he touched her chest, and this was all on record. And afterwards, Cosby told her to try and get some sleep, and then he went upstairs to the bedroom and came back down and escorted Andrea out of the kitchen where they had a muffin and tea together. So Bill essentially confirmed what happened to Andrea actually happened. But most notably during all these depositions, Cosby confessed that in the past he had provided Quaaludes and not Benadryl to other women whom he wanted to have relations with. Now, eventually, they settled the civil lawsuit with Cosby for $3.38 million. And if the case had gone to trial, they had 13 witnesses they would bring forward. But importantly, Cosby admitted that he did not think Andrea was doing this for money. Now, initially, the terms of the settlement, the records of the case, all of Cosby's depositions were all sealed for no one to see. Now, Andrea's story in 2005 was not news. See, vague rumors ran around Hollywood, but Cosby's name, it really came away unscathed from all this. But now with these 45 allegations from women who said they were assaulted, the momentum was building. Those 13 witnesses from the civil case, they all came forward publicly and revealed their story. Now, somehow, the Associated Press gets these sealed court documents from the lawsuit and reveals them and publishes them for everyone to see. And it reveals his schemes for getting with women to sleep with him. He admitted that he approached women who were professionally or emotionally vulnerable and played the role of the experienced mentor. Now, every week, there were more and more lawsuits piling up against Cosby, and it all came to a head when on December 30th, 2015, prosecutors charged Cosby with 3 counts of assault in the Andrea Constand case. Now, the statute of limitations in this 2004 assault case expired 1 day later in 2016, and these would be the first criminal charges that Bill Cosby would face. Now, with a warrant out for arrest, he went down to the police station, gave up his passport, and he posted bail for $1 million. Now, at this point, we have 60 women who have accused Cosby of sexual assault. So even though Bill Cosby was made a deal saying that he couldn't be charged criminally, and if he gave these depositions, they couldn't be used against him as evidence in court. Well, that was all under the old district attorney. Oh, and that whole deal? Yeah, that deal wasn't even in writing. So the new DA comes into town, reverses that decision, and allows these depositions to be used against them in the court. So using these previous lawsuit evidences, after a 2-week trial, the jury was deadlocked for days. And after 6 days of deliberation, the judge finally declares a mistrial because one juror couldn't give a verdict. Now, how could a mistrial happen when there's over 60 women accusing him? Well, let's talk about it. Number 1, so Cosby's attorneys questioned Andrea's intentions to no end at all. See, Bill said that it was consensual, so it must have been. She didn't act normally how assault victims are supposed to behave. Then they said that Andrea was doing this for money, even though Cosby admitted in 2005 that he didn't believe that she was in it for the money. And then number 2, the judge would not allow any of the other 60 accusers to testify against them, except for one. And this made it dead near impossible to demonstrate a pattern of prior bad acts. Now with the mistrial, the next one was about to take place. But this time, this would be the first celebrity sexual assault trial since the MeToo movement had started in the fall. And many people saw this as a test of whether the cultural shift of the MeToo movement would translate into the court. In the new trial, with the judge allowing 5 accusers to testify as prior bad acts, and with all the evidences from the prior trial, the jury finally found Bill Cosby guilty of 3 counts of sexual assault with a 10-year sentence. The attorney Gloria Allred said this was the happiest she had ever been with a verdict like this in her entire career. And Andrea left the courtroom hugging the other victims, and everyone saw this as a win for the MeToo movement. And Bill rotted in prison for the rest of his life, and it's a happily ever after. I wish. Now, Cosby wasn't too happy with this decision. See, he claimed he was innocent, that this was a massive witch hunt. And with Cosby's $400 million fortune, they sent appeal after appeal to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, and they finally ruled that Cosby was denied a fair trial and his rights were violated.
Bill Cosby is officially a free man. On Wednesday, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned the 83-year-old actor's 2018 conviction.
Okay, so how does something like this even happen? So remember when the DA at the time promised that Cosby would not be charged if he gave that deposition, and then the new DA overturned it because the deal wasn't on paper. Now, the main point was that if Cosby thought there was any possibility, no matter how remote, of being prosecuted, he could have invoked his Fifth Amendment rights, which are the right to remain silent, and therefore not have testified. So they essentially took his right to remain silent away. I mean, this is like a fundamental right that goes all the way back to the Magna Carta. Now, this ruling was not done because Cosby was guilty. He is not vindicated or exonerated. And as much as I don't agree with how he got away with any of this, he was withheld his fundamental right, and if the state stopped doing that, it'd be way too easy to lock innocent people up, which is already a huge issue. But now, since being freed from prison, Cosby's PR team has done the twist on the story and tried to portray this event as a full exoneration. But let's just remember, the court did not find him innocent. Now, 50 women, they can't be wrong. And one thing that blows my mind in all of this is that there are enough women that are so caught up with the celebrity of Hollywood that all he would have to do is say, "How you doing?" But no, Cosby didn't do that. He took the coward's way. He was the kind of guy that couldn't get a girl unless he drugged them and left them traumatized with a permanent sense of violation. And then at the end of all of that, they were all lumped into a group called the liars and money grabbers, and who dared to speak out against America's dad. Now he's walking out free, and the women around this country are absolutely horrified to see how easy it was for him to weasel his way out of jail. Now, karma can strike you when you least expect it, and even though there is no joy in this story, just really discussed, maybe the punishment in all of this is that the world will quickly forget that this dude even existed. No coverage for a man with no conscience. No venue wants to deal with him. His entire life's work has been removed from anywhere. So the next time you look at Bill Cosby's Twitter profile and he spews claims of innocence, just understand the fact that a jury of his own peers convicted him. His own words convicted him. And nothing can take that away.